Samantha could vividly recall the moment her once happy family life began to unravel. It all unfolded on a Saturday morning when the door to their apartment creaked open, revealing her disheveled yet cheerful husband standing in the doorway. "Henry, I see your office party ran late," she said, unable to mask the irritation in her voice. "You said you'd be home in time for dinner." Her husband attempted to feign remorse, but the expression didn't quite reach his eyes. Instead, he softened his gaze and replied in a conciliatory tone, "Honey, I really meant to slip out after the official part, but my boss insisted I stay to entertain a client." Samantha's eyes traveled from his wrinkled shirt to the frayed button, finally landing on his trousers, which bore a conspicuous lipstick mark near the knee. "What's that?" she asked, her annoyance creeping back as she pointed at the blatant evidence of the wild evening. "Please don't tell me one of your colleagues mistook your pants for a napkin after a drink." Henry glanced down, his face reddening as he awkwardly shrugged. "It's Margot, our accountant. She was convinced she could win a contest for who could do 10 squats the fastest. The chair she used broke after a couple of tries, so for the third round, she ended up using my trouser leg to steady herself." "Sounds like a ridiculous contest, but who am I to judge? Everyone has their own preferences," Samantha retorted, pursing her lips. "Now, hand over your salary and quarterly bonus. We have the mortgage to pay tomorrow, and in just 2 days, the loan for your new car is due." Henry's expression shifted to one of deeper apology. "Sweetheart," he hesitated. "About that, I don't have any money." Samantha shot him a disbelieving look. "What do you mean, you don't have any money? Just call and block your card." He stalled, his eyes darting around as though seeking an escape route. Each passing second felt heavier under Samantha's piercing gaze. Eventually, he composed himself and began to explain, choosing his words carefully. "I took out all the cash because I wanted to surprise you with a fireworks display, tiny bills and all. But then, I had a little accident near an open hatch, and, well, the salary and bonus fell into the water." Samantha inhaled sharply, rolling her eyes in frustration. She couldn't bring herself to believe a single word of his ludicrous story. As she turned to prepare breakfast, she realized that if she started interrogating him about the missing funds, the whole day would be a wash. With an air of determination, she shifted her focus to brainstorming ways to quickly secure money to cover their looming debts. After breakfast, Samantha picked up the phone to call her friend. "Mary, I need your help. I'm in urgent need of money." Mary paused to think before responding. "I'm having a tight month myself, but I can offer you an idea for earning some. The key is to ask for an advance. I've been cleaning a client's apartment 3 times a week. She's a businesswoman who barely has time to keep her house in order." With little time to deliberate, Samantha agreed. She had been juggling 2 jobs for weeks, as her husband had been more reserved lately, coming home late in an effort to earn extra money. Finally, it was time for the next paycheck. After dinner, Samantha looked expectantly at Henry as he nervously pulled a bank card from his wallet. "I had some unexpected expenses," he said, avoiding her gaze. "I had to take a client out to dinner, so there's a bit less money on the card." He hesitated, then added, "The bonus next quarter will be twice as much." Samantha regarded him sternly and took the card. "All right, but let's hope you can stretch what's left until that bonus arrives." The next day, Samantha headed to the ATM to pay off her loans. She inserted the card, entered her PIN, and froze. The screen displayed a shocking balance, just 202 rubles. A surge of anger welled up inside her. "Are you kidding me? You call this a little bit missing? Where did the money go this time?" She fumed, quickly dialing Henry's number. "If you can't give me a reasonable explanation, I'm taking away your car keys." That evening, Henry walked into the kitchen, shifting awkwardly from foot to foot. He anticipated a cold dinner, so he was relieved to find his share of dumplings waiting for him. Although Samantha's demeanor was icy, she didn't interrogate him. He felt a fleeting relief, believing that luck was on his side today. However, once the children had gone to their rooms, Samantha turned to Henry, her brow furrowed. "I'm not going to continue playing detective while your salary vanishes for the second month in a row. Your excuses are giving me indigestion. Starting tomorrow, you're taking the bus. Maybe that will motivate you to start bringing your paycheck home." Henry's anxiety grew. "But darling, I can't manage without a car. I have clients to meet. Without it, I'll look insignificant." "Exactly. Try to understand my position. For the past 2 months, I've been feeling insignificant, too. Cleaning houses 3 times a week when I'm a lead engineer," she replied calmly, placing the car keys into her bag. "If public transport doesn't suit you, maybe it's time you learned to ride a bike. You could tell clients you're training for a marathon." Henry blinked in disbelief, trying to convince her to reverse her strict decision, but Samantha put on her headphones, tuning in to a show titled Spice Up Your Relationships. About 2 weeks later, Samantha was on her way to her second job. After finishing her cleaning tasks, she found herself wiping down the windows when her attention was caught by an unusual sight outside. A man rode by on a bicycle with a bouquet of flowers nestled in his backpack. He wore a raincoat despite the sunny weather. When he stopped at an entrance, he pulled out the bouquet, removed his raincoat, dusted off his trousers, and wiped his boots with a damp cloth. Something about him seemed familiar. As she studied the bicycle closely, she recognized the black tape on the bumper. It was her husband's bike. "I didn't realize Henry was attending to clients at home in the evenings," she thought, continuing to wipe the windowsill with renewed focus. Then, unexpectedly, a girl emerged from the entrance and kissed Henry. He handed her the bouquet, and then, wrapping his arms around her waist, they strolled away together, completely at ease. "Now it all makes sense where your salary is disappearing," Samantha hissed, indignantly striking the edge of the windowsill with her palm. She quickly finished her work, stormed down to the entrance, and grabbed the bike. So consumed by her anger, she didn't even notice that she hadn't paid for the minibus ride. Upon reaching home, she deliberately placed the bike on the loggia, eagerly awaiting another one of her husband's deceptive fairy tales. About 2 hours later, Henry finally arrived. "Samantha, please don't start yelling. I was robbed today. While I was meeting with a client at the office, someone stole the bike," he began, sighing dramatically from the threshold. Samantha remained silent, waiting for him to step into the kitchen. As soon as he attempted to lift the saucepan lid, she interrupted sharply. "Now is not the time to fill your stomach," she said in a deceptively calm tone. "Let's clear the air. I'm supporting the family while working a part-time job, and you're spending our money on your mistress." Henry's hand hesitated above the lid before he slowly lowered it and glanced at her. She stood with her arms crossed defensively over her chest. "It's probably for the best that you found out," he replied quietly, exhaling. "Honestly, our relationship has changed. You've become so wrapped up in work and daily life that you barely notice me. It's your own fault I got involved with Diana. She listens to me and is always there for me. So it's my fault too," Samantha said, her voice laced with steel. "Fine, darling, then go ahead and be with your understanding mistress. I'll be curious to see how long she keeps you around. She probably has no idea I'm the one paying off your loans for those expensive suits and the car." Concern flickered across Henry's face. "What are you getting at?" "Simple. You can go to your mistress with just what you've earned yourself. Take your bike, your backpack, and your worn-out t-shirts. I'm keeping the car and the 3 suits that cost a fortune," she added, a threatening edge to her tone. "Oh well," he replied smugly, "Diana will accept me just as I am." About an hour later, the front door slammed shut. Samantha locked herself in the bathroom and cried, feeling the weight of the situation wash over her. The reality was painful, but after 15 minutes, she pulled herself together and resolved not to let herself sink into despair. With 4 loans on her plate, 3 of which her husband was responsible for, there was no way she could wallow in self-pity. He had pushed for the car, the designer suits, and the fancy smartphone on installment. It was her mistake to take out the loans in her name. Determined, Samantha grabbed her phone and called her friend. "Mary, I need your help. Can you look after the kids in the apartment? I can't handle 2 jobs anymore. I'm planning to transfer to another department for the year. They pay double, but it means I'll have to travel every month." As Samantha had anticipated, her friend agreed to help without hesitation. The very next day, she submitted her transfer request. At the new department, no one made a fuss over her. She was treated as the new hire and given a day to pack before being sent on a business trip. 2 months sped by in a blur. Samantha found no time to dwell on her husband's infidelity. All her energy was devoted to work. At least she was managing to stay afloat and making her loan payments on time. Then, after a particularly exhausting day, she ran into Henry near her home. He looked worn out, gaunt, and donned a tracksuit, an outfit he had once scoffed at. "Samantha, hi, it's good to see you," he greeted her in a low voice. "Looks like your mistress's understanding didn't last long," she shot back with sarcasm. "I heard from the kids that you've been living with your mother for a month now." "You were right," Henry replied, ignoring the sting in her words. "Diana was only interested in me because of my status. When she learned the car was registered in your name, she flipped out. She said her love had faded and suggested we end things." Samantha smiled bitterly. "Do you really think an apology will win me back? You're mistaken. I've had plenty of time to reflect these past months, and I've realized I need a dependable partner, someone who won't shift all the household and financial responsibilities onto me." With that, she turned and walked past Henry, feeling an unexpected surge of satisfaction at his downtrodden appearance. But Henry wasn't done. Later that evening, her mother-in-law called. "Samantha, it's been ages since you visited," she began in a gentle tone. "I haven't seen my grandchildren in a long time. Could you come over on Saturday?" Samantha was taken aback. For 3 years, her mother-in-law had only communicated through Henry, often criticizing her for how she managed their household. Now, out of the blue, she wanted to talk. "And you weren't exactly rushing over to see us. If memory serves, you've said I smother your son and control him too much." "Well, now he's living a nice, free life," Samantha replied, feeling a mix of defiance and sarcasm. "Please don't be so hard on him," her mother-in-law urged, trying to soothe her. "Everyone makes mistakes. I can admit I was unfair to you. You're a great couple, especially with children involved." But her mother-in-law's patience quickly wore thin. Clearing her throat, she shifted to a more directive tone. "Samantha, take him back. I can't listen to his whining any longer." Her sweetness faded, revealing a stern tone. "You married him, so now you must deal with him." Samantha sat in stunned silence, still holding the phone as the line buzzed with intermittent beeps. The debts had nearly torn their family apart, but here was her mother-in-law urging her to welcome Henry back. Deep down, Samantha knew she would eventually forgive him, though it wouldn't be immediate. Now, Henry needed to prove that he could not only flaunt expensive suits, but also earn the money to support them.